I call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works. This is Tuesday, August 29th of 2023. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
Yes, I just want to say briefly, as my colleagues on the board know, I've had a family matter develop that takes me out of state for quite a bit of time, and as a result, I'm going to have to step down from the Board of Public Works. I just wanted to take a moment to say how much I appreciate having been appointed to this board by Mayor Hamilton, and what a privilege it has been to serve with the two of you. I have been at the city in a different context for quite a while, and it has been just I was surprised at how eye-opening it is to see how much work and skill and sweat and thought go into all of the things that come before the Board of Public Works. I think anybody who really pays attention to what's going on would find it inspirational, the amount of work that the people at the city do to keep things running. And I just want to say I have all admiration and respect for you, Adam, and for you, April, for the work that you've done with this board and for the citizens of the city. And we're very lucky as citizens to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. The privilege has definitely been ours. We appreciate the service that you've put in and wish you well in being with your family. Any other messages from the board?
I will ditto what you said.
Next up, we have petitions and remonstrances. If we have anyone who would like to make a public comment about something that is not on the agenda this evening, now is the opportunity to do so. If you are on Zoom, you can use the raised hand function or the chat function to let us know you'd like to make a comment. And if you are here in the room, you can approach one of the microphone sets.
There's nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none. Next, we have Title VI abatements, abatement at 1401 West 6th Street.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Davis. I'm a neighborhood compliance officer with the hand department, and I am asking for approval for a continuous abatement on a property 1401 West 6th Street. This is a property in the neighborhood that I work, and so I've issued four different NOVs. First one starting in July as a warning, and then working up through the $50, $100, and $150 fine, which also included a notice that I would be coming here to ask for approval for abatement.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I'm sorry that I wasn't here yesterday. I'm just curious, some of the things in the photo that you sent, particularly in the third photo where things are covered by a tarp, that looks awfully close to the right-of-way. I'm just curious if that actually abuts into the right-of-way.
It does not.
Okay,
It's close, but not quite.
thank you.
Something that we talked about yesterday that I learned is that the continuous abatement goes 12 months from the date of the first NOV, and you had mentioned that your first violation warning was in July. We know that the first one was in April. Can you just, for the record,
Correct.
let us know, please?
Yes, so I started working with the city on May 15th. So previous to that, whomever was working in that neighborhood had issued a warning already.
Great.
So there's a warning in April.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the year-long continuous abatement would start and would end in April next year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have not received communication from the property owner?
No, I have not. Not regarding this matter.
Okay. Is the property owner on the line?
Can you tell me the property?
It is Robert Burks.
No.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's nothing on Zoom.
Do we have a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the abatement at 1401 West 6th Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard? Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have Resolution 2023-57, Little 500 Street Sprints, Resolution 2023-60, Declaration of Fleet Surplus, Resolution 2023-61, Harvest Hootenanny, Resolution 2023-47, IU Student Involvement Fair, date change, noise permit for Busk at Dusk, and approval of payroll. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda?
Do not.
Do we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda?
There's nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting of August 29th, 2023.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard? Aye. Motion passes. Next up, under new business, we have scooter license application for Neutron Holdings, Inc., DBA Lime.
Good evening, Board. Adam Wason, Public Works Director, on behalf of Hank Duncan, Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator for the Planning and Transportation Department. So this is a 2023-2024 license renewal for, Lime, but they have the parent company, Neutron Holdings. And so we do have representatives from Lime on. We've got Lee and Jake. We are recommending approval of the license agreement for this term. We've been in regular communication with all the scooter companies, including Lime, these last few weeks as we've been transitioning into new enforcement procedures, et cetera. And so been actually, even as of today, working very closely with Jake and their team on some specific issues. But so we are requesting the approval. I can say we are going to be continuing to have regular, if not weekly, conversations with the scooter companies and their representatives as we're moving into this new period of enforcement activity and parking monitoring. We've been pretty satisfied with the first few weeks of the corrals with some minor hiccups here and there. But I can say it seems to be getting better within that geographic area as far as the parking and the corrals. Still having some one-off issues here and there that we're getting addressed pretty quickly. And so with that, we would ask for your approval. And we do have, the questions that were brought forward a few weeks back to all the companies. We did, I forgot to get that to you yesterday, I apologize, but we got the responses from Neutron and the Lime folks over to you today. And like I said, Lee and Jake and others are here from them. So if you have questions, they are here to answer them as well.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I would like to hear from the company if they would just like to give us an overview, especially as it regards safety of riders, safety of non-riders, and parking, particularly as it pertains to keeping our sidewalks and right-of-ways accessible.
Lee, were you able to hear all that?
Yes, I was. Thank you so much for that, Chair. Good evening. Just to introduce myself, my name is Leon Coley. I'm the Senior Director of Government Community Relations for Lime, managing our relationship with the City of Bloomington. Lime has been proud to serve the City of Bloomington since 2020. We are proud to continue servicing the city with the expansion of e-bikes at the request of the city to continue growing shared micro-mobility, affordable shared micro-mobility. To address the board members' questions in regards to safety and properly addressing improperly parked devices, Lime has a team of about 8 to 9 members across the City of Bloomington. And I'm joined by our leader of our Bloomington operations team, Jake Bashir, who is also on, and the leader of his team, Davies, who is also joining me today to answer these questions. This team of about a half dozen people are responsible for ensuring properly deployed devices. And to the director's points about the corrals, any hiccups that we've seen, responding immediately to ensure that our devices are deployed properly. And what that means that if a device is deployed properly, that means that that trip is most likely to continue to operate properly and to be parked properly. But in the instances in which board members have seen improperly parked devices, when we receive those reports, our team members immediately respond. And we self-govern with about a 2-hour response rate to be able to address any of those concerns. Myself personally has met with Michelle Wall, the Director of Park Services for the city, to ensure that any of those complaints, particularly those that are highlighted that block ADA ramps or bus routes or ADA parking spaces, particularly downtown, are elevated so that we resolve them immediately. And that means that continuing to have a very hands-on approach at the city of Bloomington and Lime Fleet to make sure that we're responsive as possible. We send out regular rider communications in app and via email, and we also assess fines for riders who continue to park improperly. This is aligned with the other operators, and we continue to work diligently with the city to ensure that when it comes to the future operations of shared devices, that the mandatory parking zone works effectively on our end, and that the city continues to grow mandatory parking as Lime has advocated for. So that the free floating model has a bit more management, because there's nothing else that gives me heartburn than walking down the sidewalk and seeing a scooter blocking it. So from Lime's perspective, we enjoy a neat and tidy system, and we'll continue our investments to make sure that we respond to the board member and constituents' concerns about improper response to devices.
Thank you. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about the mandatory parking area. In the information that you supplied, we see a map that indicates the previous mandatory parking zone and the proposed new mandatory parking zone in yellow. Tell me a little bit about the process of establishing a parking zone, the first version of the parking zone, and then what led to the decision to add to that parking zone.
So Lime is a huge proponent of mandatory parking. If you look at the city of Grand Rapids, where Lime is the sole operator for the city of almost 200,000 residents, where we operate both bikes and scooters, the city has a city-wide mandatory parking requirement, of which the city has installed infrastructure, and on our end, we've installed that infrastructure into our operation. That requires riders to end their trips at all designated parking zones that the city has installed. We began voluntarily implementing mandatory parking around the IU campus. And so at the basis of that was identifying where bike racks existed. So what's a low-cost, effective way to ensure that devices are parked properly? Well, let's use the bike racks first. And so that was the beginning of the foundation. And so we self-imposed mandatory parking on the IU campus. And with the city's expansion throughout the central business district of new corrals, numbering north of 60, we are now expanding our mandatory parking zone to ensure that there's connectivity between both regions, but also educating our riders that this is a newer model for the rest of the city outside of IU that we hope to see become citywide eventually.
Thanks. In the document, it also says we will not deploy scooters on campus, and parking is only allowed at bike racks on campus. What does that mean, not deploying scooters on campus? Was there a time when you did deploy scooters on campus and then that changed, or have you not ever deployed scooters on campus?
As was mentioned during last week's meeting, and I would be remiss first off for apologizing to the board for not attending last week's meeting. That is an oversight on our end, and we appreciate the opportunity to come up before the board to answer these questions. But in reviewing last week's meeting, we do recognize that there were questions around impounding and ticketing. And through our relationship with IU, we received a number of impoundings that took place. And what we recognized in working with the university was that the number of devices that were being deployed, but that were naturally accumulating through ridership, was a bit of a burden. And so through our conversations with IU, we decided that not deploying to the campus, which means simply that we remove our deployment hotspots from the campus, so that there's not a large number of vehicles to begin with, and that they only occur through acclimation, through our ridership reaching campus, which becomes a much easier and more manageable way of dealing with a confined space, such as IU campus.
Okay, so if you find that a large amount of your fleet is impounded by the city, how will that affect the deployment of the scooters in the future?
We would work closely with the city to prevent a large amount of impounding, and this is where our relationship with the Department of Public Works comes in, and our relationship with Parking Services, is that we respond immediately to those issues, right? And so when Adam sends us a picture of an improperly parked scooter, our team members are deployed immediately to resolve that. So we want to be more proactive and not reactive when it comes to those types of devices, and we hope to keep our scooters out of impoundment and lower the burden of work that is required by the city to manage this program.
Thank you. I've asked a lot of questions. I'll let others ask questions. I do have other questions, but I'll pause for a second.
So Lee, it's Adam here. Just, even today's instances and such, what kind of review are you folks doing as the, so a rider ends their use of the scooter, they're required to take that picture and submit it through the Lime app to show that they've made it to a destination where parking is allowed and such. What's the monitoring of that like?
We will regularly review those entrance photos, and that's how we assess fines for our riders. When it comes to instances where there are emergency notices of improperly parked scooters, such as at handicapped spaces or curb ramps, we immediately deploy our team members to resolve those issues, and we send communications to those riders. And so just using today as an example, Adam, from the image that you shared, and for the board members' transparency, we received an image of a scooter that had been left in the middle of a curb ramp, which is perplexing to me as to why a rider would do such a thing. We identify that last rider, and then we send communications to that rider. At the most extreme, depending on how blatant the behavior is, we have the ability to deplatform that rider and share that rider's information with the other operators so that they are no longer allowed to use shared devices in the city, period. In the instance of this, what our Bloomington operations leader, Jake, who's on this call, identified is that these scooters were left properly parked. They were deployed first to the corrals that the city has installed. And there were no trips taken on that device. There was no unlocking that was done on that device, and so it left us to believe that there is the potential of vandalism within the city, perhaps from another operator who moves those scooters from deployed corrals to give the impression of a less tight system, which is very concerning to us. And that leads to another issue, which is corral cannibalism. In another photo of one devices that were not deployed to the corral, there were a number of another operator's scooters that took up the entirety of spaces within the corral, which does not allow for us to deploy properly. So there's some issues that we want to work through with the other operators to ensure that one, vandalism is not happening where there are operators taking opportunities to make the program look less tight. And the second is ensuring that we're sharing space freely so that devices that we have the space to deploy properly, and most importantly, that riders have the space to be able to leave their devices within the city installed corrals properly as well.
Can you tell me a little bit about the safety programs that you're offering on campus as far as this semester? What have you already done and what do you have planned to help particularly students, but the general community understand how to use scooters more safely?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. Lime has partnered with IU, and specifically the IU Police Department, every spring and fall. So we, at the end of each school year and at the beginning of each school year when students return, we partner with the IUPD for what we call First Round Academies. And we host events, say, at Dun Meadows, where we give out free helmets. We teach people how to ride scooters and bikes properly, how to park them properly. And this happens either on a pop-up basis or where we join in with other events that IU is hosting. And we also submit advertisements throughout the IU student paper to continue reinforcing the message of riding safely and parking properly. And we'll continue to make those same investments given our relationship with IU and the relationship with the city, and we'll expand on those to make sure that we're doubling down on the messaging providers and continuing to give out as many free helmets as possible while touching as many students as possible to make sure that they're riding properly and safely.
And could you just recap for us the ways that riders can get free helmets? So one of the ways would be attending one of these events. What are the other ways that they might be able to access free helmets?
Yeah, they're also able to request free helmets through the Lime website and be signing up for our program called Lime Access. Lime Access is our affordability program. Say if a resident is a SNAP beneficiary, they are eligible for Lime Access to receive a 50% discount on their ridership, and then we'll have their information to be able to deliver helmets to them as well.
Thank you.
I'm curious if Lyme does any safety programming in Bloomington that's not on the IU campus. Is there anything that you do to reach non-IU students?
Yeah, we also pop-up events across the city as well, and so we're also looking, we know that IU has become, or not has become, it typically is, the center of a lot of attention around the usage of shared micromobility. But we're looking for opportunities to partner with the city as well. For any standing events, we typically will go to a farmer's market, bring our tent, bring our helmets, our tables, and our devices to make sure that we can touch as many Bloomington residents as possible as well.
Okay, thank you.
Can you confirm that you're going to do those events this fall?
My delay in response is not in regards to whether or not we'll be there. It's just the commuting situation here. Yes, Lime would be proud to be able to work with the city of Bloomington for those events this fall.
Great.
I appreciate my colleague's question. I was thinking the same thing. I just putting together the pieces of what we've discussed so far is that Lyme does not actively deploy scooters on campus, but if scooters end up on campus, they are used on campus. But the safety programs primarily that you spoke about are on campus. So I also was thinking about increasing your visibility on off-campus locations, particularly for safety programming, helmet giveaways, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely aligned there for us to be where the people are. That's usually the best way to be able to do it, as opposed to Lyme planning events on our own and hoping that people will show up. We like to go to where the people are. And so any events, like I mentioned, farmers markets or festivals that make sense where the city thinks that we can touch the most people, we will be there fully armed to be able to educate as many people as possible about the best way to use scooters and bikes, and most importantly, the best way to park scooters and bikes.
If I can just suggest maybe working with HAND for some of the neighborhood programming, if scooters end up in the neighborhoods, that the companies can work primarily with your neighborhood resources division and kind of get this out in the community where both students live and community members live. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item from the board?
I don't have any questions, but I'll just say that at the last meeting I spoke at length about my frustrations with the scooter program in general across the three companies, and I'm not going to rehash that at this meeting, but I am going to say that my concerns and frustrations remain and color my vote on this matter.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? If you're on Zoom, you can use the raised hand function or the chat function to indicate you'd like to make a comment. If you're in person, you can just approach the microphone.
There is nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the scooter license application for Neutron Holdings, Inc., DBA Lime.
And I second that motion. We have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone,
Aye.
Lloyd,
No.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is Resolution 2023-58, uphold order to vacate and repair 105 East Driscoll Drive.
Hello, Mike Arnold from Housing Neighborhood Development. This is a property we've had trouble with for several months. We just recently did an abatement of this property for Title 16 for trash and garbage. There is an issue with this house being occupied by people who are not authorized to live in the house. We have spoken with the owner and she has indicated that they do not have permission to be there. We have given her the information on how to go about evicting the people that are in the house, and she is either not able or not willing to do that. So because there are issues with the house and it needs to be repaired, we're asking for an order to vacate, and we need the board's approval for that.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this? Is the property owner on the line by any chance?
I do not believe so.
Any public comment?
There's nothing I can.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve Resolution 2023-58, upholding the order to vacate and repair at 105 East Driscoll Drive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next, we have sidewalk closure request from Gillette General Contractors on West 8th Street.
That exodus has nothing to do with you.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was just like, I'm in the way.
Hi, it's Alex Gray from engineering. Gillette General Contractors is going to be working on the project at Johnson Creamery, which is at West 8th Street between North Rogers and City Hall and the Beeline Trail. The issue comes about because they have a stormwater tunnel that goes kind of at the northern part of their property, and it is 6 feet or so outside of the easement. So they have to relocate it, or else they will not be able to go forward with their building project. They've been working with CBU on this, and I actually got word from them today that I think the soonest they would be able to actually start the work would be September 11th. Probably but they said it could be September 18th too, but it's gonna be in that time period. And they're planning roughly about 5 days to do the closure.
Questions on this item?
No.
Any public comment on this item?
There's no comment on site.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the sidewalk closure request from Gillette General Contractors on West 8th Street.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is a road closure request from Reed & Sons on West Sunset Avenue.
Hi, it's Alex Gray from engineering again. Reed & Sons is requesting a road closure on West Sunset Avenue near Park Square Drive. They have recently, I got more word from the work session about when they actually plan on doing it. It's actually been pushed back to October 23rd, and then they plan on doing it until October 27th, so about 5 days, 4 or 5 days for the road closure. And what it's for is the sanitary sewer installation for the Westgate development that's in Monroe County. So they have to actually go through Sunset in the middle of the road to hook up into the sewer.
Questions from the board on this item?
So now that the project or their work has been delayed until the end of October, if they've notified the local residents, I'm wondering if they might be willing to send a reminder closer to the date just because it is so far in advance.
I believe it is Matthew, I think it's Rollin. Is he not on? Okay. Yeah, I did send the link for them, so that's why I was wondering if they would be on or not. But I can reach out to them to see about getting a notice to them, and I can also put it within their permit as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then could you just talk a little bit about the coordination with the school system? I know it's sort of mentioned in the letter from Reed and Sons that they made some adjustments to their request because of school traffic. Do you know if there's any lingering issues with that, or if they've had time to maybe talk with
I do not.
CSC?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from the school system, like, of concerns. But I can ask the contractor to make sure that stuff is going well with that.
Yeah, if they could just communicate with them, you know, starting now probably to make any adjustments that need to be made based on school
might be-
stops and
Yeah, I
things
was
like
gonna say,
that.
I was about ready to suggest maybe they could get it done like during, I think is it October when they have fall break?
It is, but it sounds like they'll start work after fall break.
Maybe, I don't know how tight their schedule is, but it might be possible, maybe we could have them shift it to the fall break if it becomes an issue. I can talk with them about it.
Yeah, that will be October 12th and 13th for MCCSC, so maybe it may align for them. Any other questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
There's no.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the road closure request from Reed and Sons on West Sunset Avenue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox Deckard? Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have lane and sidewalk closure request from AEG.
Hi, it's Alex Gray from engineering again. AEG is gonna be coming to you with one area for approval this time. It's gonna be North Morton Street and North Rogers Street, between West 11th Street and West 6th Street. A lot of this will be aerial work, which means they'll attach to the existing poles that are in the area. But they do have on some of the connector streets, some more of the local, they're gonna have some boring that they're gonna do. But it's primarily aerial.
Questions on this item?
No.
Any public comment on this item?
There's nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the lane and sidewalk closure request from AEG.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox Deckard? Aye. Motion passes. Next up is lane, bike lane, and sidewalk closure request from Landmark Urban Construction on North College Avenue.
Hi, it's Alex Gray again. Landmark Urban Construction is requesting a sidewalk, bike lane, and lane closure on North College Avenue so they can install a bus shelter as part of the 14th Street development they have, which is the standard. The bus shelter will be located between West 14th and West 15th on North College, and they want to do the work between September 5th and September 10th, which is roughly a week. And Bloomington Transit has been working with them, and they approve of their plan for the new bus shelter as well.
Thank you. Questions on this item?
None.
Any public comment on this item?
I see nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the lane, bike lane, and sidewalk closure request from Landmark Urban Construction on North College Avenue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox Deckard? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have amendment to contract with Ancris LLC for exterior repairs at the sanitation garage.
Adam Wason on behalf of JD Borough, our Operations and Facilities Director. At the August 15th meeting, a contract was awarded to Ancris for exterior repairs to the sanitation garage. Afterwards, it was brought to our attention that the provision for the compensation in the contract was a lump sum payment, and it was requested to amend this section of the contract to provide for periodic billing based on partial completion. Just with the possibility of weather delays and such, we wanted to make sure we had that option as needed for payment on the project. Requesting your approval.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
No.
Not a question, but just a note that I will recuse myself from this vote.
Thank you. All right, any public comment on this item?
There is nothing on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the amendment to the contract with Chris LLC for exterior repairs at the sanitation garage.
All right, nice second. I will call the roll. Carone is an abstention. Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have staff reports and other business.
Adam Wason again, just some brief updates. We had a really busy weekend last weekend downtown with the Pride Festival, and we'll have another really busy weekend this weekend with 4th Street Arts Festival. I think it's their 47th year, and we have a football game against a university from the state east of us that's going to bring a lot of fans. And so it's going to be a very, very busy weekend downtown Bloomington. Otherwise, it's just that time of year where we're just really busy generally. Animal Shelter had some good adoption events here recently. They still have a need for more adopters. They still have a need for more wet food for both dogs and cats. If anyone's out there wanting to donate, they are seeking those as well. And then I just wanted to finish with a thank you to Jennifer. A trusted colleague while she was here at the city, but also a great trusted board member while she served the Board of Public Works, and I want to thank you for your service, and I hope you can take the time you need to do what you need for your family. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Otherwise, that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Next up is approval of claims. Are there any questions from the board on claims?
None.
Any public comment on claims?
There is nothing on Zoom.
All right. Is there a motion on the claims?
I move that we approve claims tonight in the amount of $717,301.83.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. And motion passes. And if there's nothing else, I will call for adjournment.